Hey, I'm Joe Bob Briggs, and you're watching Halloween Year Round.
Look, I already told you we're not going to do Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness for Dead Talk video.
What do you mean we're not going to do Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness for a Dead Talk video? You did the Batman. This just doesn't seem very fair.
I mean, yeah, but that was about whether or not it was a horror movie.
Well, you also did Morbius.
Yeah, and nobody watched it. It remains the lowest viewed Dead Talk video we've ever done.
Well, that's not my fault that movie sucked.
I mean, it was a lot of people's faults, including Jared Leto.
Yeah.
Well, the decision's final. We're not going to do it.
Well, I think we should, because this just isn't fair.
I'm not crazy. I'm in control. What did you do to me? Fine. We'll do Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness.
Hi, I'm Dave, founder of Halloween Year Round, and this is our weekly Dead Talk, where, of course, we talk about all things dead and apparently undead. This week's topic is the new horror movie. Yes, it is a horror movie, Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. Very nice, Patrick. Where's all of your multiverse faces?
Around.
So I'm, of course, joined by my brother Chris, our friend Patrick, whom you know from the Dead Talk, and our other friend John, whom you've seen on the show before.
Yep.
I would like to point out that my multiverse faces are currently in the shop, right next to the DeLorean.
All right.
It's
So
really lovely that you can admit that.
Yes. So before we get into Multiverse's
You don't have a
Madness,
DeLorean?
who does? Nobody does. They discontinued them. But before we get to all that stuff, first off, we're going to do Horror in the News with David S. Not Pumpkins. How's it hanging? I'm David S. Pumpkins, and this is Horror in the News. So we start off this week with some sad news, passing of actress Jassara Gennaro. Horror fans know her best as the motel maid who discovers the gruesome and grisly scene left behind by the Firefly family in Rob Zombie's Devil's Rejects. Very sad, very young, and just kind of a bummer. In other news, The Walking Dead spinoff starring Norman Reedus. We know previously lost Melissa McBride, reprising the role of Carol. But good news, apparently they found a showrunner in ER's David Zabel. See how that goes. Walking Dead was basically a soap opera at this point anyway, so I guess it makes sense to have a guy who specialized in a long time running medical drama to do that. In House of Usher news, we all know that Frank Langella was, as he put it, unceremoniously dismissed for inappropriate behavior and comments he made. He has since been replaced by Mike Flanagan regular Bruce Greenwood. The two have worked together on movies like Dr. Sleep, Gerald's Game, and they already have kind of rapport together. I know there's some controversy with Langella himself. He said, at least in his own words, he said, what happened, and it seems like Netflix is trying to put that behind them. And I think casting Bruce Greenwood is a solid move. Like I said, he's worked with Flanagan before. They kind of have a great working relationship, and I think he's a great actor and will play a great Roderick Usher. In creepy sci-fi news, David Cronenberg's Crimes of the Future got its first trailer this week, and it is exactly as weird and creepy as you'd expect a David Cronenberg movie to be. We've got body horror, we've got science fiction, we've got Viggo Mortensen, who previously worked with Cronenberg on such thriller classics like A History of Violence and Eastern Promises. This is the first time that Mortensen has worked with Cronenberg on kind of a more like body horror sci-fi movie, which, may be in similar vein to his version of The Fly, We'll just have to wait and see. But huge fan of Cronenberg, and just glad to see him still making movies now. And finally, in regards to Rob Zombie's Monsters reboot, many fans have been saying it this whole time. The rumors, have persisted, but Zombie has admitted definitively that the original Marilyn Munster, technically she was the second one after the first one quit after 13 episodes, but Pat Priest will be joining the cast of his Monsters reboot. We still don't know for sure who she'll be playing, how big a role it'll be. It might just be a cameo. She and Butch Patrick are among the only two surviving members of that cast. So we know for a fact that she's in it, and the rumors remain strong that Butch Patrick will pop up as well. So we'll just have to wait and see. That's it for this week's Horror in the News. Back to you, Other Dave. Thank you, David S. Not Pumpkins, who totally looks like a different person than me. So, right off the bat, first MCU horror movie, first movie that kind of really deals with the multiverse. This has been a build-up. So what did everybody watch before going into this? Or I guess what should everybody have watched?
On that note, I actually did have the TV tropes page pulled up for this because it's this was one of my complaints about the movie, because you have to be familiar with so much. The original Doctor Strange, Infinity War, Endgame, WandaVision, What If, and Spider-Man No Way Home, and that's not counting the cameos. Plus, apparently, there's a plot point in season 4 of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. that kind of explains Wanda.
We don't speak of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. anymore.
It's like as if Agent Coulson doesn't exist.
It's like that's the one thing Hulk didn't snap back was that show's continuity.
Ouch.
Yeah. I didn't do it. Marvel did.
Yeah. Well, thankfully, Agent Carter is still considered canon because it is still set in the past. So at least that's okay.
I thought that Marvel did a really tremendous build up to the multiverse, like throughout the last couple of years. And I feel like I mentioned this on one of the other videos you've done, but we get a hint of it in Far From Home, Spider-Man Far From Home, where Mysterio's background is supposedly he's from the multiverse, but we obviously find out that that's not accurate. And then of course we get into Loki, which just kind of
runs with it.
With it, but prepares you, and it's like, okay, well, it's Loki. Loki's a pretty weird guy. It's not out of the, that's not too crazy to think of him. He was kind of the perfect character for that type of subject matter to introduce us to. And then we have What If, which was a phenomenal show. And I felt like kind of with each show, it prepared us more and more for the multiverse, and kind of, I think, allowed us to not have this be too crazy for us. Do you know what I mean? Like it wasn't too overwhelming.
Well, even the very first Doctor Strange film, from what Tilda Swinton's character of the Ancient One said, you're a man looking at a keyhole, and you've spent your whole life trying to widen the keyhole to see all, to know all, in ways you can't possibly imagine, which was like the first real step into it, with just that glimpse of him going through like several different multiverses, just like, with her, like, kind of guiding him a little bit, and then just snapping him right back and then saying, have you ever seen that in a gift shop?
I mean, this is definitely exploring new worlds, and I think it's kind of the perfect culmination of all of that, where we had all the Spider-Man, and it's time finally to just jump into the multiverse. And it's fitting that I think that this had more of a horror tone, because it is a weird, disturbing, dark place. And I will admit, I've said this many, many times on this show, on other shows, I was very apprehensive after Scott Derrickson left the project. I love Scott Derrickson. He did an amazing job with the first Doctor Strange. He's also a master of horror. Exorcism of Emily Rose, Sinister, Deliver Us from Evil. I was very disheartened when he left, but if you're going to trust one person to blend comic book superhero and like weird supernatural horror, I don't know of a better person than Sam Raimi.
And if I may jump in, I honestly think that Doctor Strange is kind of the perfect character to sort of introduce both horror and the multiverse into the MCU, primarily because as a wizard, he has access to the spells and whatnot, so they could do the multiverse, or at least the version of magic in the MCU that can't speak for magic, but that's beside the point. So there's that, plus the horror element actually works because if you're going into other worlds, like they're not all going to be like the MCU Earth. Like you're going to see some pretty freaky stuff out there.
This film was
absolutely.
This film was really ballsy. Let me tell you.
It was.
Absolutely.
I guess we can get into spoilers. Is this a spoiler?
This is a very spoiler talk.
Okay.
All right.
So, man, Charles Xavier can't catch a break. I mean, guy's been killed 3 times.
I know, he keeps dying. I will say, my packed theater cheered not just at his appearance, but I'm sure you all noticed the instrumental music they played at his entrance.
Yes.
The na-na-na-na-na-na-na.
From the
That got a bigger
reaction.
reaction than John Krasinski as Reed Richards.
Yeah, I was like, wow. It's like,
that was shocking.
It's kind of like Twitter came alive. Like, yes, we hear you, Twitter. Here you go.
And we can discuss the other elephant in the room. But I kind of first I want to focus on. It's interesting what I really liked about this movie. This is a Doctor Strange movie, and that's compelling to me because what number appearance is this for him? He was in his first movie, Infinity War, Endgame.
Right.
What if? No Way Home. Thor Ragnarok. Thor
Ragnarok, yeah.
But in all those other appearances, he's kind of in the background. He's not really getting his own arc. This is his movie. This lets him be the protagonist, and it asks that question of, it makes him look inward in ways that I don't think we've seen him do since his first movie. And then an excellent foil to him, spoiler alert, I don't know if this is a spoiler because it's the beginning of the movie. It turns out WandaVision was actually a villain origin story.
Yeah.
Right, yeah.
Because holy crap, is she terrifying.
Oh yeah.
But relatable. You understand her. You feel for Wanda. You feel her pain. And it's like, I don't agree with her burning alive all of these poor students at Comertage, but I get where the rage is coming from. And she did say, get out of my way. She gave a million warnings.
In a way, I kind of reminded... Sorry, go on, Chris.
I was going to say that I think it's interesting that she kind of became a Thanos in a lot of ways, a villain that you could understand even if you didn't agree with them. You're like, okay, I can at least see where the motivation's coming from. That took me totally by surprise. I mean, I think that they did a really great job of keeping that under wraps. Even with the trailer, I was under the assumption, Doctor Strange is going to have like this fun adventure through the multiverse, and Wanda's going to come along with him, and they're going to,
I figured she'd get into some dark magic because you get some visuals of that in the trailer. But in hindsight, we're all fools because literally WandaVision ends with her with the Darkhold, which is basically just the MCU version of Sam Raimi's Necronomicon from Evil Dead.
I knew exactly where you're going with that as soon as you said that.
Of course she's the villain after consulting that and going down that rabbit hole.
Oh yeah.
On the subject of Evil Dead 2, I was just happy to see that Bruce Campbell made an appearance.
Oh yeah, it was absolutely awesome to see Bruce Campbell back.
I immediately was in the mood for pizza after he kept talking about pizza. Papa always gets paid.
Yeah,
missed opportunity in the stinger for him to just say it's over, groovy.
I was waiting for him to say groovy, but also, what the hell is a pizza vendor doing with mustard? Was that meant to go on the pizza?
It's another universe. It's another universe. Red means go, green means stop. So
so in their universe, so maybe that's the universe where. Does that mean we're in a dark universe because people put pineapple on pizza, and in other universes, they're rightfully disgusted by it?
I think our version of the mustard would be ranch dressing on pizza.
I love ranch dressing on pizza. I'm addicted to it. I have a problem.
All right, sorry, Chris, we can't have you on the show anymore.
Well, I know like there's like a barbecue chicken pizza, so maybe like maybe it's some variation where it's instead like the base is mustard and something else.
So
You never know.
pizza preferences aside,
Yeah.
let's talk about Sam Raimi. But this is very
Yes.
much this man. There are scenes that really tap into. It's like, oh, that's from the guy that made Spider-Man, and then there's other scenes where it's like, oh, that's Evil Dead.
Oh yeah.
Like the souls of the damned, and like the camera, the shaky cam coming at Rachel McAdams' face. I'm like, oh, this is so Evil Dead.
Yeah. Actually, like the dead version of Doctor Strange, like who was buried in the ground, like in the beginning of the film, and then when they cut back to him, like his hand, like reaching out from the grave. I was like, oh, like that is so Evil Dead right there, just like right out of Evil Dead 2. It was so awesome.
That even the way his eyes opened was so Frankenstein.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So say what you will about Sam Raimi, like love his work or hate his work, like he has an eye for an aesthetic.
He does, and it's really cool to see him. I mean, this was the first movie he's directed in 9 years since Oz the Great and Powerful, which was not my favorite of his movies. I know Patrick's going to disagree because I know you like that movie.
I mean, like I said, overall, I did like it for what it was. I mean, it ultimately was basically showing the man behind the curtain and like how he even got into his position of power, and basically like showing like both witches. I know, like for example, in what was that one Oz musical?
Wicked.
Thank you. Yes, Wicked, which I've also seen on as a Broadway. That one's much different than Oz. I mean, for various reasons. I mean, obviously they can't do like every little single beat, but it was so interesting, and I did like his visual style and flair that he did with that.
And I think that's a common theme is right, that visual style. And I think we would all agree this movie, to Chris's point, it's ballsy. It is perhaps the most visually interesting MCU movie.
Yeah, and also I'm going to say this right now too. I think it might also be like the most like at points violent. Like it really pushed like the PG-13 as a limit. Like I mean, even like touching on R at times. Like for example, like one scene where Captain Carter, like literally her shield going right through the middle. I'm like, oh, and it's like,
that entire sequence. I was just gonna say that entire sequence. But once again, the aesthetic of it, that was just so over the top.
Right.
I love the whole I can do this all day, and then like the whole day turns out to be like 5 minutes.
Right.
Or how they're like, we can handle a little witch. I imagined Ron Howard's narration, like from Arrested Development. We can handle a witch. They could not.
They couldn't.
Going back to, I mean, I did not expect them to wipe out nearly every member of the Illuminati. Like, especially you're bringing in Reed Richards, you're bringing in Xavier. Like,
Well, I think it was that universe's version of him. So this doesn't. Right. We can still get John Krasinski in his own movie, and I think that this movie showed us that's what we are going to get.
That's what we are getting. But I liked it. I liked it because I didn't expect it. But I think it did a really good job of just showing the threat that Wanda is. That like, holy shit, she killed Reed Richards. She killed Xavier. Like
she took out Captain Marvel, which I have always said it. I've said it since Infinity War. Wanda is by far the strongest one out of all of them. And I knew it in Infinity War when she's trying to destroy the Mind Stone and Vision. And she's also Thanos is trying to use the gauntlet. You see him. Like the stones, like he's trying to use the stones, and she's only giving him half her power.
Yeah,
and she's still holding him back.
And what I find really interesting about the MCU at this point is, I mean, look at Loki. Loki starts as a villain, and now he's sort of become an anti-hero of sorts. And then we have Wanda. Yeah, I know technically Wanda was a villain in Age of Ultron, but she was misled.
She was a hero by the end of it. Compliments of Hawkeye telling her to walk out the door.
Right. And, you know, to kind of see a good guy become a villain, I mean, I think that's ballsy. I mean, that's especially a character as beloved as Wanda,
And
especially after
how
WandaVision last year. So,
and
but I
how
thought
dark
that was,
she goes.
yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, really dark.
That's why I
Yeah,
said it completely reframes WandaVision now
Right.
as, you know, yes, it's a study in grief and loss, but you see how she's just lost too much. Though I will say I respected, she got the Doc Ock death.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Assuming she's dead.
Yeah.
Assuming, yeah.
We all know what this franchise loves doing.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, and I know I've mentioned to you guys and in various videos on many occasions that I think overall I'm kind of been starting to get burnt out on superhero movies. So for a movie to really get my attention, for me to give it a high rating, it has to try doing something different. And to your point, Dave, having Wanda be just a straight up villain in this movie, I think that was absolutely a great choice. Plus obviously the aesthetic of Sam Raimi and the visual flair he brings along.
You know, he's known for look at Evil Dead. His I mean, he does horror comedy, but the comedy kind of comes from how over the top the horror is.
Yeah.
And you get a lot of that here, but you also get like the whole possession sequence when the photograph of Wanda starts like moving and that was creepy as hell.
Yeah.
That reminded me of in the original It, when Georgie's picture winks in the. There's something really creepy about photographs moving.
Yeah. And also that one scene where she's like, you know, trying to escape from the mirror dimension, like, you know, through a reflective surface, the way she comes out of the symbol and the way her body's contorted and whatnot. I'm like, it's Sadako from The Ring. Like it's Sadako. And I was like, wow, like I didn't think they were gonna go like to a place like that, but it was just like creepy.
And I was worried that because Scott Derrickson left for creative differences, and I was worried that it was because he wanted to go more horror and Disney was like, no, you got to keep it more Disney. Clearly that wasn't the issue because they let Sam Raimi just go all out.
I would not be surprised. Sorry, go on, Patrick.
I mean, I think up to a certain point. I mean, like I think if they really gave him like the full on, like, you know, like do whatever you want, I think he could have really gone like a full 11. But I also know that there were certain things they were kind of holding back a little bit. I mean, like they couldn't show like, you know, like how gruesome the deaths were, but they were still pretty hard hitting up to a point.
They did it the Dark Knight way, where like you show the violence right up to the blood and you feel the intensity. So I think they probably said, do go all out. Just keep it PG-13.
The only thing that would have made it better is if Wanda walked up to Xavier and she's like, "Do you feel in charge?"
I mean, that's basically what she did.
Yeah, and sort of going back to sorry, I lost my train of thought. I'll let you know if I regain it. Go on.
Also, like I think some of the more interesting things was like all the rumors that were going into it as well, which was like a lot of fun just to hear all the speculation. Because I mean, up to a certain point, I just went full media blackout, especially when like the reveals were leaked, and I'm like, okay, I'm on full media blackout this whole week. But even before that, there were just some crazy rumors like that Deadpool was gonna be here, and that what was it? Tom Cruise was going to be.
There was one that Tom.
And also like even like the whole, they're going to like find a way to now finally introduce the mutants into the MCU, which would have actually been very appropriate, especially because in the original House of M comic book storyline, with Wanda saying no more mutants and then like, you know, every mutant's powers like disappeared, that would have been interesting if she somehow would have like, you know, said something like that, but just in reverse. It's like, you know, like, is it like, you know, like unleash the mutants and then you finally would start to introduce them. Unless of course now, since they've established officially that multiverses do exist and that the main MCUs is like, you know, is in Earth 616, which is in the comics, maybe there is, like I said, an X-Men universe in its own separate thing.
And maybe they'll come into it Maybe
Yeah.
there'll be some event, or
Yeah. That's what I'm
maybe
thinking.
Wanda only killed Xavier to make her dad happy. You know? I can't be the only one who made that connection.
No, and actually, a couple of months ago, I think it was a video on Chris's channel. I think it was either me or Patrick who had brought up that with the Multiverse of Madness, it would be the perfect time to bring in both the X-Men and the Fantastic Four.
Which they
did.
kind of did, yeah.
Yeah, and
kinda,
I-
yeah.
And also, this, like I said this to Patrick and Chris as we were coming out, this is this is a far better Fantastic Four movie than the 2015 Fantastic Four movie. I refuse to stop ragging on that movie.
a very high bar, you know.
Yes.
Yes. Absolutely.
But oh my God, she was a total savage when she's like, is their mother still alive? Oh, good. There'll be someone to raise them. I was like, oh my God.
I know
Yeah.
that was
Like-
dark.
Like
Yeah.
I'm torn
That was
between
dark.
being horrified and like, you go girl. Like, I don't like she,
Well, you know what I think the multiverse really gives the opportunity for here is, and we see this even with Doctor Strange, you know, having kind of these multiple copies of characters that we know very well, you can kind of see that, you know, in certain situations bring out the worst in them, and other situations bring out the best in them. So we see obviously like the other Wanda that does have her kids is a good person, and we see that
Mhm.
the other Doctor Strange that lost everything, and we saw it was kind of a little similar. I don't think it was the same character from What If, but kind of
Yeah.
similar to that story where
he went down a similar path.
he went down a
Yeah.
similar path, and it just shows kind of what the potential is. That kind of that any character has potential to be good or evil, which I thought was really interesting.
And especially that Strange, it's very easy for him to be a villain.
Yeah, which
Like-
yeah, and
like,
he's not
like
that
the-
different from Wanda.
Like the Joker said, you know, Magnus is like gravity. All it takes is a little push.
Yeah.
I'm a huge fan of the Discworld series of novels, and one of the major characters is a witch, Granny Weatherwax, and
Great name.
I'll tell you more about her later. But basically, she actually is very powerful, but she refrains from using magic too much because she believes that if you use magic too liberally, which will start cackling and go evil.
And I mean, that's similar to, you know, anyone who uses the Darkhold. You see what it does to this universe's Stephen Strange, that just like tapping into that takes a toll on you.
Absolutely.
So it's definitely it's the darkest it's ever gone, but it didn't feel. And again, I say this with the disclaimer that I am a defender of the DCEU parts of it. It never goes full dark in like self-importance and seriousness the way that does, and the way that I think Eternals kind of did a little bit. But it goes dark in terms of subject matter, but still manages to kind of keep its sense of humor. And again, I think that's a testament to Sam Raimi, that he's not just, you know, it's not just an expert in horror, but in horror comedy, you know, movies like Evil Dead. My personal favorite of his, Drag Me to Hell, which I think does not get enough attention.
Yeah, that is an underrated horror one.
It's like gross out and disturbing, and like you're laughing to the point that you forget it's a horror movie until there's a jump scare. And I think there's times in this movie that it does that. Also, I can't talk about this movie without mentioning, I'm glad Rachel McAdams has something to do.
Yes, yes,
because she really didn't in the first one.
Yeah, I was talking to a coworker of mine before we went to see the movie yesterday, and he said something along the lines of Rachel McAdams is the best thing to come out of Canada, and she is great. But I will raise you John Candy.
I'll raise you Ryan Reynolds.
Kind of apples and oranges there, guys.
True.
But you know, I I was not really that into the first Doctor Strange movie. Like, I thought visually it was amazing. I thought that the character was really interesting and his backstory. But for me, like, it was really hard to follow. Like, I had to rewatch it several times to kind of get some idea what was going on.
Well, I mean, you have to be a certain level of intelligence to get it watching it the first time.
But for me, actually, I'll chime in on this one. For me personally, like when I first saw Doctor Strange in 2016, it quickly became one of my favorite Marvel films, like right up there with Guardians of the Galaxy. Like I understood like the character of Dr. Stephen Strange. Like I understood like what, he was going through in terms of like, that kind of like very high like intellectually minded, but at the same time though, like sometimes you just got to be able to, hold back on the reins a little bit and, like accept that kind of humility, which I definitely, I mean, like that's why I always do my best to be humble when it comes to certain situations, because, like I do value intelligence, I value intellectual thoughts. So that to me, like I immediately connected with that as a character. So like, like opposite of Chris, like that was like absolutely one of my favorite, like, not only one of my favorite films, but he became one of my favorite characters. And I always continued to root for him. And in this film, like we saw him definitely grow more, mature more, and really open up a side of himself that, like basically taking the next step to basically become a fully realized character. I think like even like talking about like his sister's death, which from the comics, like that's another really big thing. Like, because originally, the reason why he doesn't like, operate on a lot of people is because in the comics, at least, he was operating on his sister in order for her to get better, but he failed. And he took such a massive toll on him to the point where he only operated on certain people that he knew he could save, like from that point onward. But it was also interesting to see like the film translating that and basically talking about that kind of like internal pain and struggle he went through along with his own love life. So
it definitely it continues, and I think it's Christine does a really good job kind of summarizing it, in the first 5 minutes when she's like, still you have to be the one holding the knife, and he, by the end of it, he learns. To Wanda's point, yeah, maybe he's a bit of a hypocrite because he does the dream. Like he does everything that he tells Wanda not to do, but ultimately she's doing it for selfish reasons to take something, but he's doing what he's doing to protect something.
And on that note, I kind of remembered what I was going to say earlier. That whole dynamic very much reminded me of the Tales of series. You guys know I'm a huge fan of that game franchise, and a lot of the villains in that series tend to have very sympathetic motives, but unfortunately their way of actually going about and getting those motives involves, well, killing a lot of people. So
exactly.
Yeah, they gotta go.
And they give him someone to protect in terms of America Chavez, who my only criticism of her was that I feel like the movie, it focused, we got a lot of great character arcs and moments from Wanda and Doctor Strange. I feel like America was kind of caught in the middle, and even though she was a character, at times she herself felt more like a MacGuffin. But maybe we'll get more of her. I like the idea that, she's at Comertage, she's training, when Christine said, "Is America okay?" I wanted to be like, nope. That's all I'll say about that. Yeah. But the character was fine.
Right. That was kind of weird to get used to that because, I haven't read the comics, but
because they kept saying America.
Yeah. America. That's all I heard in my head.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
I misheard the first time when they first said on the screen. I thought it was like I thought they said Erica the first time. So like it took me a hot minute to mentally adjust to that.
So, to kind of wrap it up, I think we all, it's a great horror movie. It is a horror movie. Sam Raimi directs the hell out of it. Its visuals are amazing. And this could pave the way for more, the multiverse opens up literally infinite possibilities. It also opens up the MCU to potentially more horror movies. I am very excited to see what they do with Blade.
And if I may jump in, I also recommend it, but I also acknowledge that as with a lot of Marvel movies as of late, you do kind of need to watch at least some of the other properties to really fully understand what's going on.
But that's true with any Marvel thing at this point.
Yeah,
I think
yeah.
they kind of it's kind of understood.
Right.
So
And also
ahead.
for the ending of WandaVision, like I know they kind of were trying to be like, like Wanda, we understand like, what you went through and all that. And to a degree I kind of understood, but at the same time I'm like, she still forced an entire town against their will. And I'm glad that they didn't like try to like, cop out like, like during this movie. They basically showed just how far she had fallen. So it's like, okay, now like we're finally getting that second act of the story, so to speak. So I'm glad that they, they basically are like, okay, we weren't quite sure, but now but yeah, she's the villain in this one. Like she's fallen from grace, and ultimately they have to basically try to like, stop her. And especially at Wondagore, like that was really cool to see that. I mean, like, another major,
just
like,
visually and the whole.
well, I mean, but it also has very huge significance in the comics as well, because like that's where she and Pietro originally were, like born and raised, in the comics. So it was so pretty cool. I love little references like that.
Wondagore, born and raised out on the mountain cliffs where they spent most of their days.
I like that.
All I have to say is X-Men 2000, officially the first MCU film. Move over Spider-Man 02.
Move over, Toby. All right. Well, before we wrap up, I want to go to our resident movie keeper with movies from the Crypt.
Well, hello, all you horror hounds, you media monsters out there. It is I, Patrick, the movie keeper. Welcome you all once more to Movies from the Crypt. Well, recently I have been inducted into a special society that prides itself on the preservation of physical media. The Digital Impression Storage and Preservation Council, or DISC for short. As you can see, as you can see, I have been gifted these lovely ceremonial robes, complete with this lovely medallion that I have been bestowed upon as the official movie keeper of this show. So it is a great honor to be with you all today. And I will still continue my wonderful, lovely duties as we continue to dig up some excellent, awesome physical media on Movies from the Crypt. So let's get right into it, shall we? Up first, for this coming week, for May 10th, we got 5 movies up here. So let me run them all for you. First and foremost, Behind the Monsters Season 1 from Shudder from 2002 is coming out. We also have Wes Craven's Curse from 2005, which I have something special to share with you. My own physical copy of Cursed, which I'm very grateful for from the good people at Shout Factory. Thank you so much. And also, something very cool, if you pre-ordered it from Shout Factory, the poster. Ooh. Oh, that's a lovely werewolf right there. Very, very nice. I know, like, some people complain that she looked like a bear, but she's definitely furry enough, and very deadly. But yes, definitely looking forward to seeing more lovely Scream Factory releases. We also have The Cursed from 2021 from Decal Neon coming out this week, as well as Friday the 13th, Part 3, being released from Paramount as a movie. So excellent for all you Jason Voorhees fans out there. As well as Dark Knight of the Scarecrow 2 from VCI Entertainment. The long-awaited sequel of the classic Dark Knight of the Scarecrow. We also have a slight correction, and I do apologize for this one. I said originally that The Sacred Spirit from 2021 from Arrow Films was a Egyptian mummy romp. Sadly, that's not the case. And seriously, Mr. Bojangles, I wish you had done a little better research on that one. I do apologize. My skeletal interns have been working to the bone for me lately. But as for the correction, it is a UFO sci-fi drama, but it does take place in Egypt. So I was a little so you gotta hopefully give me a little leeway on that one. Maybe a little sand in your hourglass. You know what I mean. But moving on though. Ooh, from Universal Pictures. The newest is a film from 2022 Studio 666. Yes, it is officially going to be released on Blu-ray on May 24th of this year, and one that we have proudly reviewed here on our weekly Dead Talk. So definitely one to check out. One of our personal favorites for horror comedies out there. So definitely give that a look. And also from Sony Pictures, Morbius! Yes, that Morbius! Will have a release date of June 14th, which we've also covered, ironically enough, on our weekly Dead Talk as well. We definitely sunk our teeth into that unique film, if you know what I mean. Especially the performance of one Jared Leto. So definitely one to check out as well. We also have You're Not My Mother. She is. No, it's actually called You're Not My Mother from 2021, being released from Magnet, coming out on June 21st of 2022. And our final film, The Seventh Curse from 1986 from 88 Films, coming out on June the 27th. So that's all. So that's it for my release schedule. You lovely horror hounds and media monsters out there. Also, thank you very much to the Disc Council for bestowing upon this incredible honor. I will take my services very seriously and continue to let you all know about all the great and wonderful physical media releases out there. So, thank you very much. Definitely dig up a buddy and enjoy some of these flicks when you can. Alrighty then. Back to you, film crew, and Dave and friends.
Thank you, Movie Keeper. So, final thoughts. Go see this movie. It is cool. It is visually the best MCU movie I've ever seen. I know that these movies have been criticized. Some of the earlier ones for not being very visually interesting. That time has passed with stuff like Guardians and now this. Really cool movie and kind of the perfect bridge for both fans of horror and fans of comic books. So really hope to see more horror.
Same here.
Where can everybody find all you guys?
dorkdaily.com, youtube.com/dorkdaily, anchor.fm/dunklevision.
All right. And then, of course, as always, we have a Dead Talk every single week, which Patrick is usually part of, or at least he does his movies from the Crypt.
Yepers.
And John is, of course, a frequent collaborator on our Dork Squad over on Mr. Dork Daily's channel. So check all that out.
Movies.
He just loves movies. Go see Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. Like, share, subscribe, all the YouTube stuff. If you don't, you may be trapped in a multiverse of madness, or you may end up like the Illuminati. So just putting it out there.
Do you end every video with a threat to the audience?
Yes, I do, because that's how you get subscribers. So
Yeah, next year, now you guys threaten to punch people in the throats.
He's
It's-
not Ezra Miller.
it's never. Oh my god! I don't want to fight you, Flash.
No.
So thank you for coming to our Dead Talk, and remember always, every day is Halloween.
And this is your pal Patrick. As I thank you all for coming. Keep watching horror films and keep America strong.
What? It's over.